Welcome to the NCDWI Guy podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NCDWI Guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 151 of the NCDWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about The Slight Edge, this incredible book by Jeff Olson, taking a look at a couple of the principles of the slight edge and then applying those to the practice of law. This episode concludes our three-part series on taking small steps to improving your legal practice. Small moments, small decisions. How can we use these kind of one day at a time lessons learned to improve our law practice? So back on episode 149, Game of Seconds, we really talked about the mentality of attacking the minutia. And so that's more of a mindset episode. Last episode on 150, titled The Perfect Brick, we did a read of a portion of Will Smith's autobiography about the wall, but then really looked at your weekly schedule and how to build a schedule that focuses on the most important things. So if you've got some scheduling issues or scheduling, you just don't feel like you ever have enough time, go back and listen to both of those episodes, but particularly episode 150. But on today's episode, we're really just focusing on how small things matter. And that is really the principle of this book. Started reading this book shortly after the new year, and it's really been one of the most powerful books that I have ever read. If you are a lover of Atomic Habits, it is very much in that category. If you are a lover of kind of mindset and the power of building patiently, growing patiently, creating something incredibly enormous, but doing it over the long haul, playing a marathon or ultra marathon game. This is a incredible book, Jeff Olson, Slight Edge. So if you take anything away from this episode, primarily take away the fact that this is an incredible read and you should go read the book and then apply the principles to your life. Effectively, the book is really very simple in terms of the kind of overarching theme, and that is that every decision that we make matters. The smallest decisions matter. Waking up and hitting the snooze button versus not hitting the snooze button matters. Waking up and choosing to exercise on this particular Tuesday or not choosing to exercise on this particular Tuesday matters. Waking up and putting the most important things at the front of our calendar versus, not taking that 5-minute time to kind of prioritize what's going to happen through the day. Those small decisions make an incredible impact, but particularly as they compound and as you see this kind of bell curve that results from the decision, it is really effectively this sense that even though every decision seems small, the repeated process of making the right decisions has an enormous impact. And I really can't kind of condense the way that Olson communicates this principle into a short podcast, but it really is like an incredible mindset read. So please go read Jeff Olson's book, listen to the audio book, try to get a full value out of this principle by going straight to the source. So gonna start with this little snippet from the book. Someday my prince will come. Good old Walt Disney. Well, that may have worked out for Snow White. Back here on Earth, it's a recipe for disappointment. In flesh and blood life, waiting for someday is no strategy for success. It's a cop-out. What's more, it's one that the majority follow their whole lives. Someday when my ship comes in, someday when I have money, someday when I have the time, someday when I have the skill, someday when I have the confidence. How many of those statements have you said to yourself? Have I got some sobering news for you? Someday doesn't exist, never has, and never will. There is no someday. There's only today. When tomorrow comes, it will be another today. So will the next day. They all will. There is never anything but today. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. I was driving through Wells Fargo Bank this morning, and the teller had this handwritten sign that said, this is the only, something to the effect of, today is only lived once. Make it amazing. You don't get another today. There is no other today. If you waste today, whether it is through spending your time where you shouldn't, being depressed, focusing on the negatives, not getting the right priorities in place, wasting your time, you don't get it back. And so we talked about that a little bit back on episode 149, but the power of today is so important, because it's not just this sense that what today matters, but making the right decisions today has this incredible compounding effect that Olson lays out in The Slight Edge. So Olson starts out The Slight Edge with this story about a wealthy father and his two sons. And he tells them, I'm nearing the end, and so I would like to pass on a portion of my wealth to you both. And so here is the choice that lies before you. Either you can take a penny or you can take $1 million. And so here is the catch of that story. Either way, you are not allowed to have the money until the end of the month, until day 31 at the end of the month. If you choose the $1 million, then dad will give son a loan up to the $1 million amount to go out and start earning on that, to create interest. And so that person who chooses $1 million can go and start kind of investing, so to speak, that money right away. If you choose the penny, then basically the father has instructed his butler to double the amount in the bag that the penny is in every day up until day 31. And so one son chooses the $1 million and goes out and starts figuring out how to invest this money, and gets financial advisors, and starts putting it into, this loan that he's created into stocks. And at the end of the month, he's made some bad decisions. He's gotten the wrong financial advisors in place, and also expensive financial advisors, and ends up basically $250,000 in the hole at the end of this 31-day transaction. He's used up more money than he's actually allowed. So regardless of whether that's realistic, that's the path of son one. Son two goes home and reads a couple of other short stories that are in the book about the compounding effect. And so he chooses the penny, and, very small increases, day 1 through 10, very small increases really until day 15. And then you start to see some larger and larger leaps. And by day 29, he's in the millions. By day 30, he's at $5 million. And by day 31, at the end of this 31-day process, he's at over $10 million from a penny doubling every day. So it just shows how quickly, if you make good decisions day after day, it really is a great expose on why you don't only see the benefit of the good decision that you're making today, but why you see the effect of that good decision 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. These small choices that we are confronted with make a big difference. So kind of applying these principles to the practice of law, and where I've seen some of these principles kind of work in building our business. I just have a couple of different places where I think that this is very much true, and some practices that you can adopt to put the slight edge to work in your own life. So the first one is this: one conversation at a time. One conversation at a time. If you want to change the way that your law practice works, do it one conversation at a time. So this could be with clients over the phone. This could be with a DA in the courtroom. This could be with a colleague that you're exchanging information with. Every conversation, if you go into it with the right mindset, can have long-lasting impact on your practice. So let me give an example. At our office, one of the attorneys here, Blake Marcus, is incredible at client communication. It is really, it's really amazing to kind of see the way that he puts this particular brand promise of ours into kind of real life action. And so I've recently started doing a series of kind of follow-ups with clients to see how we can improve what we are doing, what can we be doing better. And so I was talking with one of Blake's clients, and she basically, I asked her, what made you decide to talk to our firm? What made you decide to hire us? And so she said, well, I did some research online. I found you guys, and I called a number of other attorneys. Nobody that I called me back except for Blake, which that in and of itself was kind of mind blowing, because I was just like, and I'm sure that this has happened with us as well, where we just have not got back to a potential client. But it's kind of like, clearly this person was reaching out to attorneys that likely could have helped her. And so where is the disconnect? Like, why is there not this kind of return follow-up call happening, especially when she's indicating it's happened with multiple other attorneys? So go check out whether or not your kind of intake process is functioning currently. But what she actually kind of said about, not only did Blake call her back, but he called her back within an hour. And she emphasized that. She said, as soon as he called me back that quickly, I made the decision that I was going to hire your firm. And so I think that one thing that stands out is, when you make phone calls, when you make a return call to a client a priority, it really stands out. Now, she went on to say that Blake was incredible in terms of his emotional connection and how he, went through everything, with her. There was a number of other things that confirmed, I think, that the buying decision. But she specifically pointed out it was this immediate return phone call. When he called me back, he gave me his cell phone number so that I could text him if I needed anything. There was this connection that was created primarily through response. Where do we see lawyers get into the most trouble with the bar? We see that in the context of not returning phone calls, right? Not being responsive to a client need. Get into a habit. Start now. Start with today's responses. Get into the habit of calling clients back quickly. At times in my practice, I've done this very well. And at times I have slacked off and been poor about client response time. And the difference is stark between those two things. If you get into the habit of just responding to clients and doing it immediately, you eliminate a whole lot of future work on your end and a whole lot of future relationship repairing that's going to have to occur. But you also you also just establish that this is the way that we do business. This is the way that I do business. And when clients see that repeatedly happening, it becomes easier for you to make those return follow-up phone calls because it's just part of your DNA. Now it's not a choice of should I call this client back now or not. It would be absurd if you've been doing that for 2 or 3 years, immediately returning a client phone call. It would be absurd not to do that. It would feel weird. It would not be, your brain would rebel against that. It would say, no, we're calling now because that's what we do. The more you build these things into becoming habits, the greater the impact it has over time, because each choice that we make makes the next choice easier. That's why each one of these small choices is so dang important, because each choice that we make makes the next choice that much easier, that much more likely that we are going to make the right call. When you are interacting with a DA in the courtroom, remember, it's one conversation at a time. You don't build up credibility with somebody, the first time that you walk in and introduce yourself, or if a new DA is in the courtroom, you don't have this rapport with that person from day one. You are going to have to build that process slowly. And there have been so many times that DAs have saved my butt on a continuance, on holding a case open, on agreeing to an offer, whatever it might be. There's been so many times when the DA is just in a position to make your life easier or make your life more difficult. And building up a repeated process of candorously talking to the DA, making sure that you don't put your reputation into jeopardy, being nice, being kind, being a respectful person. It just it's one of those things that just pays incredible dividends over the long haul. And it's not because you've earned any specific undue favor, you're getting paid under the table. I mean, it's nothing about, being this greasy sleazeball. It's communicating to the DA that you are a good person to work with. And how do you do that? You do that one conversation at a time. You do that one interaction at a time. Same thing with a colleague, same thing with the clerk that you have to work with, same thing with the person that sends you cases down the street. All of these conversations that create these opportunities, that create these relationships are so important. They're so critical. So how do you build up a law practice designed to last? Point number one, you do it one conversation at a time. Point number two, you do it one client at a time. One client at a time. This is one of the most powerful ways that I feel like we have been kind of incorporating the slight edge into our law firm for years now. And it is with this thought process. This comes from Jeffrey Gitomer. So different Jeff, but Jeffrey Gitomer, who I think it's a book called, Customer Loyalty, something to that effect. Actually, customer satisfaction is worthless. Customer loyalty is priceless. I've got it on the bookshelf right here behind me. So this comes from that book, and it's this mindset. Every time one client walks in your door today, it's 10 clients walking in the door down the road. One client walks in the door today, 10 clients walk in the door down the road. It's not as though one client walking in the door today and making that kind of good impression and explaining everything and going to war for that client. It's not as though you have won one client. You have literally got this compounding effect going on through your interaction with that one client. If you want to build a law practice designed to last, your clients have got to become your best salespeople. Your best, the people that are going to send you the most referrals over the course of your practice is your prior clients. Hands down. That's who it's going to be. People that you have worked with in the past. This has always been true. It's always been true. Word of mouth has always been present. It's even more so now because of the power of online reviews, which we'll get to in a second. But every time that you win one client today, that person, if you go to war for them and you provide a wow experience, is bringing other people to your office down the road, who are then bringing other people to your office down the road, who are then bringing other people to your office down the road. It has this compounding effect when you do good for one client today. Treat every client like you would treat the most important referral relationship for your business. Treat every client that way. When a client is calling, instead of having this mindset of this client just needs something from me, I need to do this thing for this client, that they're bothering me again. Look at it as an opportunity to deliver a wow experience. Every time that a client calls with a problem, boom, here, hey, thank you. This is my chance now to go and deliver a home run experience for the client. Thank goodness for this phone call. Boom. Every time that there is a complaint, a concern, a question, this is my opportunity to shine. This is what is going to differentiate me from every other business on planet Earth. How do you differentiate yourself? You differentiate yourself from other businesses through the service that you deliver. When you call in with a complaint, you expect a defense wall, but regardless of the business. When you call in with a question, many people expect a lawyer to not call them back, to not have time for them. When you call in with a concern, you expect that it's not going to get heard, or that the answer is not going to get communicated rightly. Smash those expectations, shatter those expectations. Respond in a way that the client walks away thinking, I just can't believe the responsiveness of that attorney. I just cannot believe the responsiveness of that firm. I just cannot believe the experience that I just had with that business, which happened to be a law business. If you can smash and shatter expectations of your client, you are going to have that client going out and being your frontline salesperson. That's what's going to happen. You're going to have free salespeople. Salespeople are expensive. Go look in the world of sales. Salespeople are expensive. If you want to have free salespeople for your business, then treat every client like they're your top salesperson, because they are. They're your top salesperson. You should treat them that way regardless. You should treat them that way because it's the right thing to do. But recognize that when you treat each client the right way, that you have empowered your top salesperson to go and preach from the rooftops about your services, so that one client hiring you today becomes 10 clients hiring you down the road, and that continues to compound. So point number 2, one client at a time. Point number 3, build your business to last through one review at a time. We just talked about this. Online reviews, online reviews, Google reviews on Yelp, Facebook, Avo, FindLaw, whatever it might be, Martindale Hubble, all of these places where you can get reviews, they make a difference. And why is that? Because that's how people buy now. That is how people decide what products or services they are going to go and purchase or hire. That's how they make these type of decisions. And it's incredibly freeing for the consumer to have this access. Incredibly freeing, because now they've got somebody else that has had a prior interaction with this product or with this particular service, and they get feedback on that ahead of time before they've spent hundreds or thousands of dollars investing in this. So this is definitely very much present in the legal space. And how do you get 100, 200, 300, 400 reviews of your business at a time? by getting one at a time, by requesting one at a time. You got to ask in order to get the first one, right? There's gotta be some sort of a request for feedback. So how do you get 400 reviews? You get them one at a time. There's no easy way to getting these reviews. And if you find some sort of simple way or way to get reviews, you're probably engaging in practices that Google is gonna hammer you for down the road. There's no cheap path. There's no shortcut on this end of things. If you want 400 legitimate reviews showing customer feedback, you're going to get that by getting one feedback from one person at a time, one review at a time. There's no shortcuts on this front. And so building it for the long haul, being patient in this endeavor. It doesn't happen overnight. If you get 25 reviews in a year, that's one review every 2 weeks. You get 25 reviews in a year, then in 4 years, you'll have 100 reviews. If you get one a week, 50 a year, then in 4 years, you're going to have 200 reviews. Compound effect, simple, right? You just got to make these small practices part of your regular life, part of your daily life. Today matters. The review that gets left today matters. It matters today. It matters tomorrow when somebody sees it. It matters 5 years now when somebody sees it. The compound effect of a review is so powerful because, again, it's not just the fact that you've got one from this moment, but it literally just stays there and continues to touch people as they find your business. So point number 3, one review at a time. Point number 4, one training at a time. And I'm trying to kind of like keep consistent with the language that I'm using for this. This could be like one practice at a time. This could be one training opportunity or learning opportunity at a time. But this is focused around education. And one of the like main points that Jeff Olson makes in the Slide Edge is read 10 pages of a good book a day. A book about mindset, a book about business, a book about bettering yourself, a book about whatever spirituality, whatever it is that you're trying to improve. Spend your time reading 10 pages a day of a good book. He repeatedly talks about that. He's got success stories from some of the most successful people in the business world, sharing how powerful this concept has been in their lives. But it's wildly fruitful in terms of putting in this kind of daily effort. So in the legal world, in the world of bettering your law practice, I've said this recently on the podcast, read one case a week. Read one DWI case related a week. Attend a CLE every quarter. I mean, the amount of online trainings is just unbelievable at this point. And when you can get all of your CLE hours virtually, and there's so many past great CLEs. I mean, if you did one CLE every quarter that was DWI specific in North Carolina, you would have enough CLEs to attend for probably like the next 8 years without having to like go digging somewhere. I mean, it is an incredible amount of resources available out there in terms of past CLE presentations from various CLE providers. We've talked about them in the past. There's just so many opportunities, learning opportunities. Listen to this podcast. There's 151 episodes as of when this gets released. If you listen to 3 a week, you'd be going for a couple of years. A few years before you'd be out of podcasts to listen to. Take advantage of these educational opportunities. And I think the biggest thing when it comes to this particular piece of the Slide Edge is don't put up a 0. If you're having an off day, if you're having a bad day and you read, you just don't feel like reading those 10 pages today, as Jeff Olson talks about, read 8, read 4, read 5 today and 15 tomorrow. Catch up. Don't just leave those pages on the table. Things happen, things come up. Consistency is the key to this slight edge principle. Whenever possible, do not put up a 0. That's why it's so important to make this learning piece a priority. Jeff Olson also talks about in this, as we talked about on the podcast, finding a mentor. If you want to be somewhere, if you're building a business that you see in the future, find the person that has that. Find the person that is living that dream that you have, and go talk to them. We like to pretend that Tom Brady just was born to win Super Bowls. We like to pretend that Kenny Chesney was just born into life with crowds of 80,000 people watching him all over the country. Right. This is not reality. In reality, there may be some raw natural talent, but it is the people that are just putting in the miles, putting in the effort, learning from their mistakes, constantly course correcting, constantly listening to that feedback loop that is allowing them to progress and get better. And so if you're shooting for something, if you are trying to attain this level of success, go talk to the person that is there, because they're going to share, if they're being honest with you, a lot of crap that has happened along the way, a lot of things that they had to really scrap and claw at in order to get to where they wanted to be. So go talk to those people. Use the slight edge principle to kind of figure that part of it out. I mean, again, as we talked about a few weeks back on the podcast, it's a game of inches, just making those small progressions, those small movements forward. So make education a part of your life. Practice makes perfect is a lie. It's a terrible lie. Practice makes better. Practice makes perfect doesn't make sense. We're never going to hit perfect. It also devalues practice, because then once perfect, which is never going to get hit, once perfect gets hit, then you don't need to practice anymore. So it devalues practicing, and it assumes that you're at some point going to be perfect. Not going to happen. Practice makes better. That's why these training sessions are so important, because there is just always room for improvement. And by focusing on education in the business world, reading these 10 pages a day that Jeff Olson suggests, in the legal world, reading this case a week, as I've talked about on the podcast, that these small movements forward constantly keep you in a growth-minded mindset. So yes, are you learning important principles that you're going to apply? Absolutely. But you're also feeding yourself and allowing the brain to be in the space of, we're going to continually get better. We're going to continually push the envelope. And that translates into all areas of your business practice. It translates into your client experience. It translates into the training that you provide to your team. It translates into the case management process that you have. It translates into all of these other areas outside of just understanding DWI law better. Make that learning time important. Value that learning time. So number 4, one training at a time. And the last one, number 5, 1 quarter at a time. And by this, I mean 1 quarter of the year, 3 months at a time. And so this is a little bit different than a lot of the slight edge principles. So to start this out, let's start with this quote from the slight edge. The truth is, what you do matters. What you do today matters. What you do every day matters. Successful people just do the things that seem to make no difference in the act of doing them, and they do them over and over and over until the compound effect kicks in. End quote. The truth is, what you do matters. What you do today matters. What you do every day matters. So we've got to focus on today. But in between this big, hairy, audacious 10-year goal that we have of where we want our firm to be, and this moment in time today that makes a difference, we have this valuable chunk of time, which is measured by each quarter of the year. And so when we have our quarterly rocks, our quarterly goals aligned with our 1 year and 5 year goals for our firm, we can really start to take bite-sized daily and weekly chunks towards those longer term goals. It is the quarter that really kind of wraps up, that ties together the power of today and the power of the big, hairy, audacious 10-year goal down the road. It's in that quarterly moment. What am I doing this quarter, intentionally doing? What have I set aside as a priority for the next 3 months that is going to advance me towards where I want to be in 10 years from now? And when I have figured that out, now the power of today, the priority of the day, becomes so much easier to see. And what I'm doing today can so much more easily translate into achieving that quarterly stepping stone towards the long-term end game. So 1 quarter at a time. If you have not started planning in a quarterly model, if you have not started planning in these kind of short chunks of how am I getting from where I want to be 5 years down the road and where I am now, how do I bridge that gap? Plan your next quarter. Start looking at your next quarter to figure out where you can prioritize your time. So that's the slight edge in a way applied to the law, the practice of law. Go get this book. I'm telling you, it's going to be one of these books that can really change your life. Yeah, go read it. That's at the end of the day, that's the best advice that I can give you on the episode today. Hope it's been helpful, and I look forward to speaking with you again next time. If you found the information in this podcast to be valuable, I simply ask that you pay it forward and share this podcast with another member of the legal community. Also, if you would leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you're listening on, I would greatly appreciate it.